This is the Happy Weight podcast and my name is Aoife. I'm kind of surrounded in cats if you're watching on YouTube, but for some reason Cece and Jasper decided to join me today. I'm a bit shook up, honestly, because I thought it would be a good idea to review that program on Netflix. It's called Fit for TV, and it's kind of a documentary about that program, The Biggest Loser, that was there in the early noughties. And I'm just shook from a kind of more personal level, because I suppose I started dieting when I was 11. And I kind of think the worst place that you're in with eating and weight issues, you're very vulnerable to all those diet shows and stuff. So I suppose they hold a lot of bad memories for me for watching them and feeling not good enough, and this understanding that one day I'd be a superior person who could gather together all the willpower I'd never managed to muster before, and then have some happy ever after of being controlled and, avoiding temptation and having willpower and all of that stuff. So honestly, I really had to think twice about reviewing the show for personal reasons, mainly because, I started dieting when I was 11. I used to read all the Weight Watchers materials and all the pull-out 3-day diet plans from newspapers, and all of that caused me to develop binge eating disorder at 14. And I gained 3 clothes sizes, had bulimia, binge eating disorder. And just ultimately, even if I wasn't what's eating Gilbert grape size, body size or anything like that, I just have had enough food noise and food and weight issues for one lifetime. And I have no interest in going back to that, basically. And when I was looking at this show, I was looking at it also through the eyes of the old me. And honestly, I could get seriously upset because there's so much pain comes with eating and weight issues, and that's what I found really hard about the show. I would say not even being medical, right, about eating and weight issues, not on about the risk to our health or anything like that, but just in terms of, I would say eating and weight issues and say maybe being overweight for a lot of people, it's a serious issue, mainly because the amount of pain it can cause, in someone's day-to-day life, the amount of things that can block them from in life. And that's not even going down the road of stigma or society or any of that stuff. And so then for something so kind of severe in terms of how painful it is for so many thousands and millions of people, one of the main things that really hurt me from, and I know I'm on the same side as that documentary, obviously, that documentary is just highlighting how wrong it all was. But, just the fact that something so serious was being dealt with it wasn't serious. As in, one of the personal trainers, one of his old clients were Julia Roberts, and they were celebrities. So they were basically people who were already slim, wanting to get slimmer. So that was his background. And then he was going into eating disorders and obesity management. So clearly no experience there at all. Definitely no understanding from a personal or professional level. You can tell that on the show. And God, if you don't like cats, this video will be a nightmare, sorry. The doctor on the show had a background working with sports teams and these major American football teams. So as in the psychology and the psyche generally of really good looking celebrities and actresses, and then high achieving sports people, is generally quite a different place to be in than when we're dealing with overeating and all the low self-esteem that comes with eating issues, weight issues and weight gain and all of that. So basically this was a bit of an experiment. The team behind it didn't have a lot of professional experience with this area. For me, obviously, I work in emotional eating, so the origin of emotional eating and weight issues and eating issues is pretty obvious that it's not about nutrition. It's about our emotions. It's about what's going on in our head. It's about how we're looking at things. It's about how we're looking at food. It's about how we're looking at ourselves. And because in one of the subjects was kind of saying that she was so nervous about going on the show that she was binging so much before the day one, and they were put on a ranch and they were hundreds of miles away from their family, didn't get to see their kids. The emotional toll that took caused a lot more binging, you know, for this lady anyway, I'm sure for the rest of the subjects too. And I'm like, that wasn't addressed at all. Heading into then day one of the series would have been like, right, we're gonna burn a few thousand calories through exercise, we're going to put you on an 800 calorie diet, and just for none of that emotional stuff to be dealt with at all is just so blind or something. It's so naive, it's so ignorant. There was, obviously the whole thing is problematic. I don't think it's any harm me going over some of the main things that are problematic, some of the main things that we don't want to look at our eating and weight issues through this lens anymore, because this lens is highly toxic. So one of the first things you hear a lot in the show, and how they kind of promoted the show and everything, was this is my second chance, or this is my last chance to change my life. And so many issues with that general kind of narrative around eating and weight. First of all, eating is like breathing. It's the terms and conditions of being alive. You have to eat every day until the day you die. So how I would see it, considering it's a non-negotiable, hey, let's work on making it a lovely relationship. Let's work on it being a lovely thing in our life, considering it is in our day every day. But just like it would make no sense to say tomorrow starts my second chance at breathing right. That makes no sense. It would make no sense to say, okay, this is my second chance, or this is my last chance with my weight. It's like, that makes no sense. Like, our weight is a very delayed response to where we're at with our eating right now. And, that mentality of a second chance or a last chance shows a really black and white way of viewing it. That you could either be in a terrible place or a wonderful, perfect place. And that's not how anything in life goes. Like, say, career-wise or relationships, it's not like there's a whole group of people in a perfect situation or a terrible situation. It's like there are many thousands of shades of grey somewhere in between. And we can always go from where we're at to improving. If this is something that's serious to you, if this is something that's permanent to you, if you really want to do a sincere move to something different and more permanent than staying on that hamster cycle of dieting and weight gain, etc., it would be about how can I improve this overall? What are the increments of change so I can start feeling better about my body now, start talking to myself better now, start relating to food in a nicer way now. And this probably all sounds really fluffy and that, but basically anything we do to feel emotionally better or physically better is us moving away from disordered eating, away from binge eating. Because binge eating and overeating are physically uncomfortable. They are. It's uncomfortable to have a very dull taste of even nice foods because your body is already so satiated. These foods are a bit of a meh, because your body's not encouraging you to eat them. It's also no crack to have shame around foods that everyone else is eating every day as well. And like I said, the biggest thing that we do not deserve is the physical discomfort that comes from staying full all the time, or being over full, or being binge level full. We don't deserve that, and we want to do whatever it takes with how we're, living in our life, how we're moving things around in our schedule, how we're moving around our relationships in our life, so we can feel better, which will have a knock-on effect on our eating. And that's the other thing. One of the subjects said that she had an awful relationship with her husband, and he was cheating on her, and that was around the tip of the iceberg on how awful their relationship was. And she was like, maybe if I could just lose weight, it would save my marriage. And she was like, maybe I'd be a better mother, maybe I'd be a better friend, maybe I'd be a better whatever. I'd love to shut down that narrative for you in terms of my life would be better, I would be happier if I was slimmer. Not only does that not help our weight today, it also is not taking care of our emotions. So it's actually always making a worse situation out of the thing, because it's always backwards. It's, if my life was better, I would lose weight. That's how I see it. If we're emotional eaters, if we do a lot of comfort eating, binge eating, secret eating, clearly there's something wrong with how we're looking at our life, or how we're running our life, or the things we're introducing into our day-to-day life that are causing strong emotions. And these strong emotions, we have to run from them with comfort eating. So it's actually the other way around. It's that if I was happier, I might lose weight. Like, I remember there was a life coaching session I had in a gym, and, you know, it was a big eureka moment for me. He was like, you think you'll be happy when you get the thing, but actually being happy is how you get the thing you want. In the show, there was no real acknowledgement that that's not a really good way to go around a broken marriage, to starve yourself and burn 7,000 calories on exercise or whatever a day. And it's another point they brought up in the documentary, actually, about like pseudo-psychology, like as in the personal trainers, first of all, they didn't understand eating and weight issues at all. You can tell a mile off who understands eating and weight issues and who has been there and who's not. It's very easy to tell. Like, there was one name, and it's pretty obvious in the documentary, Aubrey Gordon, and I think she's got like podcasts and everything. She was amazing and she gets it, but the PTs in the program did not, and they were so toxic. And at different parts of the show, I was like, are they monsters? And then I was like, okay, maybe they're not monsters. Maybe they just have really low IQs. And then I was like, okay, maybe everyone is doing the best they can with the information they know at the time. But it just seems like one of the PTs on the documentary, like, he's, you know, this is years later. This is like 20 years later. It doesn't really seem like he still fully gets it. Like, a lot of the team still don't really get how problematic the whole show was. Like, as in, one of the presenters was like, you know, obviously I see the problems with it, but ultimately we were bringing attention to a very serious issue, and, you know, we were working in the health and wellness space. But it's like they exposed in the documentary how there was zero aftercare, how most of them went on to like further eating disorders, either being anorexic or putting on all the weight back on and more, which is the kind of expected outcome. And when subjects got on to the producers and was like, okay, you're making over $100 million every year from this show, do you think you could put a small percentage of that to the aftercare, the mental and physical health of the subjects? And they had no interest. There was no aftercare. So that just shows they didn't really care about the greater good. And when I'm working with clients, because I've worked in rapid weight loss, like I worked in rapid weight loss in 2010, I worked in rapid weight loss in 2011, 2009, like as in back in the day when I was starting my career, I worked in rapid weight loss. And it's like, that's actually really easy to do. It's really, really easy to make people lose weight quick. And it's really easy to be unethical. And, you know, as dietitians, we have a code of conduct and ethics, and like all healthcare workers, the main point of the whole thing is to not make the situation worse. And rapid weight loss is leaving people in a worse position in 6 months' time and 1 year's time. And now when I work with clients, all the changes, like I'm constantly, you know, being like, how does this work? You know, does this make sense? If you had a day of eating today, if your eating was like this in 6 months' time, 9 months' time, 5 years' time, would you be happy or would you be missing out? Because if there's a shred of missing out, if there's a shred of willpower, like I'm always searching that there's no willpower being used, because any results that come from willpower when it comes to weight loss will all come back on. Like if you lose 5 pounds of weight through grit and sheer willpower, you will probably gain 7 back. And that's another thing I'd like to highlight, that, these shows, any of those diet shows, and by the way, thank God they are over, the Irish versions, and I'm pretty sure maybe depending on the developed country, most people are pretty now aware that it's awful. It's these shows that just enhance weight stigma and have a zero understanding of emotional eating or eating disorders. They make the situation worse. So thank God, the Irish version of it isn't being shown anymore. And, I suppose a lot of people have learned the error of their ways. But just to be clear, another thing that they did on this show, they had these temptation challenges where they put all this yummy food in the room, and it also made no sense. There was some challenge where they had to eat as much as they could. Whoever could eat the most and still lost weight at the end of the week or something got to go home and see their children, which is just obviously cruel. And you're like, what is the take-home message here? And also, I suppose the whole thing is overweight people, they've all this temptation, and people who don't have weight problems have better willpower and they can override temptation. And it's okay, that's misunderstanding number one about understanding there's people in the world with eating and weight issues, and there's people in the world who do not have eating and weight issues. And just you might not have gambling issues. So it's not as if you drive past Paddy Power or whatever. It's not as if you're driving or walking past those places white knuckling it and just being a really strong person overriding your issues. It's nah, you don't have an issue with gambling, so you mightn't even see those places. Same with alcohol. You could probably walk or drive past an off license if you don't have issues with alcohol, and you're it mightn't even be on your radar. That's a real misunderstanding, that people without eating and weight issues have the same level of temptation, but they just are strong enough and they're just better people overall, so they override it. It's no. Most of the time, they don't have it to begin with, and they certainly do not have the same level of temptation and obsession and food noise as someone deeply stuck in eating and weight issues. So when we're deeply stuck in eating and weight issues, a lot of the time what's going on is food scarcity. There's just a general understanding that we should be limiting calories. So when you're doing something that's so detrimental to our survival instincts, like limiting calories, well, then our brain is going to go on override trying to think about calories. Just like if someone said to you, in 3 hours time, the available oxygen is going to be reduced, you could not carry on your day normally if something so integral to your survival was being compromised. That's where obsession begins. So yet again, when we're in that place of, I've got a weight problem, I need to limit my food, I need to keep my calories under a certain amount, or even the story of, I need to be really good tomorrow, so before I start being really good tomorrow, I'm going to overeat a load today. Any of that chat is obviously going to make us eat in a really weird way compared to someone who's got no eating and weight issues. And what no eating and weight issues would look like or sound like, maybe in a best case scenario, is that, yeah, there's food out there to be enjoyed and there's unlimited food, and I intend to have a nice day today with food. When I eat, I intend for it to taste nice. I intend to feel well after it. And I'm not really interested in eating anything, whether it's a battered sausage or a kiwi, if it's not the taste I'm in the mood for. It wouldn't taste good to me. Or if it's something someone said I should eat, not really, do not care about what people say I should eat. I'm the only one with my body and my signals. And equally, I've no interest in feeling physically less well. I've no interest in eating something that in 20 minutes time will make me feel less well than I did before I ate it. And I suppose that's where I am at the moment with eating and weight issues. When I was in the depths of eating and weight issues, it would have been a very different narrative. It would have been, what am I allowed? What can I justify? How many calories have I had already today? How many calories should I have before the end of the night is out? What can I fit in that calorie window? Why don't I use all these calories up now and then just not eat for the rest of the day? Or why don't I eat a lot today and then why don't I go on 2 walks tomorrow? So there was just constant calorie arithmetic, can't say that word, going on in my brain. So it really had nothing to do with pleasure. It had nothing to do with reinforcing my day. Food had nothing to do with making me feel physically and emotionally well. It was just more a game of what I was allowed, what I should eat, what I could get away with, and just all that kind of accountancy with it. So, and I suppose people who are, successfully on the GLP-1 inhibitors and injections, they could vouch for the whole thing that they're not always white knuckling it. And when I'm bringing clients to a good place and when my clients are in a good place with food and stuff, they're not white knuckling it at all day. It's not as if they have become better humans with increased willpower and increased grit. No, it's if you're in a good place with food, you don't need any grit. Grit and willpower is actually the start of eating and weight issues, because we start off being okay, I can't trust my body anymore. I have to go on a diet. So even if I'm hungry, I won't eat. And even if my belly would be more satisfied on a little bit more food, I don't trust my body anymore. I trust a diet. And then the more we learn to fight against our signals, so, disregard if a food isn't tasting that nice, disregard if we're still hungry, disregard if we don't need the snack or we're not hungry for breakfast. Yet the more we get good at disregarding our physical signals, the more we can overeat, the more we can gain weight, the more we can have bigger and badder cheat days for longer and bad phases. So grit is not the route. Feeling physically better hour by hour, feeling emotionally better hour by hour is, in my opinion, the only measure as to whether you're moving closer or further away from your ideal weight. Another thing I suppose that was interesting about the show is that, there was so many things, obviously, that the subject said that I would hear on calls every day with clients, especially at the start when they're signing up. And I suppose the first one that was true for me also is just the starting the dieting from an early age. The second thing was, one of the subjects was I'm literally a prize winning weight loss person. One of the subjects won the game of The Biggest Loser one of the years. So he lost many pounds of weight, and he's now back to very morbidly obese. So he's I can do it. I could write a book on how you do it. And people always say that to me. They're I could write a book on how you lose weight. I could write a book on dieting. And it's yeah, exactly. You have weight problems. People without weight problems aren't dieting. They're not constantly reading up and involved in the diet or disordered eating world. If you're very well up on it, if you could write a book on it, chances are you're not in a good place with your eating and your body, because chances are, like I just said, you've just really learned how to eat when you're not hungry, and you've learned how to keep eating even when you're full. You've learned how to justify eating stuff that doesn't taste nice or you won't feel well after. And we learned that in college. We learned that actually the more educated you are on nutrition or diets puts you at a greater risk of developing eating and weight issues. I hope you're enjoying this episode. Make sure to check out my website, happyweight.ie. There you'll find out about working one-to-one with me and information about my online services as well and courses. If you're finding this information helpful, if you're finding this podcast resonates with you, give it 5 stars on Spotify or follow me on YouTube. Thank you so much. Thinking that dieting will bring you to happy ever after, thinking that cutting out chocolate will one day lead to a place where you could take or leave chocolate is just really wrong. The people who can take or leave chocolate, or some days have none, some days have a bit, some days have a lot, that comes from a great relationship with chocolate. It doesn't come from denying themselves chocolate. It doesn't come from cutting out chocolate for 3 weeks or 1 week or 2 days, because the only thing cutting out of food will ever do is make you eat a lot more of it when you inevitably return to it. So this is the really hard part of leaving dieting. We have to give up on the quick win and the idea of a quick win for the overall greater good of not becoming more overweight. Because the quick win, the rapid weight loss, the cutting out of certain foods to rapidly lose weight, like I said, 90% of the time will always lead to being really out of control with those foods on the other side. So I think, and I'm always saying it, the most important step one of letting go of weight is not being willing to do anything that could cause weight gain. And cutting out foods and being weird about certain foods is not us practicing managing or regulating those foods. So regulating and managing a food is, what's my optimum amount? Like, as in, when my belly feels like this, what is a nice amount of chocolate that will make me feel better in 20 minutes time? And they are answers only we can find out, and through practice. Another thing that one of the guys said is, he's like, I have lost literally thousands of pounds of fat, like over the course of his lifetime, but he's gained it all back on again. And that really reminds me of an episode I did with a hypnosis. It's one of the earlier episodes, and I'll get Jack to put in a link to it. But, I'm just like, I'm really not sure why this isn't more common knowledge, but like, losing weight is not your goal. Like, ultimately, that man, he has achieved his goal. Like he said, he's lost thousands of pounds of fat, and every year he gives himself the opportunity to lose more and more weight. So he loses the weight, he puts it on. So technically he's getting his dream of losing weight. He's continuously losing weight and putting it back on, and then losing it and putting it back on. So your goal is not losing weight. Your goal is to maybe live in this world without a weight problem, to live in this world without eating and weight issues. And it's really important to see everything through those eyes then. So it's like, rather than asking yourself, what have I always done? What have I done when I'm being good? What should I do if I'm on a diet? It's no, what would you do if you did not have a weight problem? If you were not interested in eating loads today and eating nothing tomorrow? What would it look like if you had no issues with food? And that's always the filter we have to run our decisions past. There was 2 subjects, right? It covers this in the documentary. And they were brave enough to do an expose a few years ago then, in 2016. What was really picked up in that expose, and then what I think someone sued them afterwards, was they said that they were encouraged to use drugs. And I think the drugs were caffeine tablets or something, but maybe they were alluding to more. I'm not sure on the details of that. And then, so all the focus on that New York Times expose or whatever it was on the drug use. And you're like, without any drug use, without any caffeine tablets, this was death by 1,000 paper cuts. Everything about the show is wrong. If they were told to use drugs or not, that is the 1% of the problem of the entire thing, the entire narrative about people who are overweight. There was one woman, there was 2 that fell out, and one of them got on with the personal trainer, and the other one was just being horribly bullied by the personal trainer. And that feeds into the whole narrative that if we have gained weight, we've done something wrong. And it's like, I tell all my clients, and I tell it to myself as well, of course, that it's like, it's really unfortunate if you develop eating and weight issues or body issues. It's really unfortunate. And it's from a lot of reasons. It's from a lot of reasons, a lot of influences. But it is not your fault, and you are not a weaker person, and you have done nothing wrong. And one of my favorite affirmations, especially with eating and weight stuff, and I do it a lot with clients as well, is I have done nothing wrong. I have done nothing wrong. Just like you wouldn't say to someone with arthritis that, hey, you should feel guilty for developing this. Eating and weight issues are really complex. And like I said, a lot of it is programming we got in our youth and programming we got in our culture, but it's like, it's not you per se. And I'm not saying that because I want you to think you're the victim of anything. I think Oprah said at one point, and I kind of agree with it, like, it's not your fault this happened. It's your responsibility to change it or heal it or get out of it if you want. And that's a nicer way to look at it, to just have a lot of compassion for that this developed in the first place. There was another thing that I remember believing this, that it's just a lottery, right? And some people are born lucky and born without eating and weight issues, and then some of us are unlucky. And yet again, you can tell someone who's never worked in the field, if like that one of those PTs said, he was like, look, some people are just unlucky and that's the way it's going to be. And he said something about like, they will have to live with this for the rest of their life and they will have to eat less for the rest of their life and all of this. And I'm like, I've worked in this. I have personally overcome my eating issues. I know if my brain was still thinking in the same way as it used to, I would still have binge eating disorder. I would still be 3 sizes bigger. There is stuff we can do to change how we talk to ourselves, how we relate to food, our relationship with food, our relationship to our body, our relationship to what we deserve in life, our relationship to our self-talk and the level of scum we're willing to say to ourselves, or the high standards for how we speak to ourselves. There's loads of room for improvement there. And with all that room for improvement is a better way of treating ourselves, which sometimes, of course, includes how we eat, how we relate to food, how we exercise. And of course, that has a knock-on effect with our weight. So never, ever think that it's like you've just been hit with the unlucky stick. And it's just black and white and you're unlucky and your friend or your cousin or your sister, she's lucky, she doesn't have these issues and that's that and this is your life. I would never, ever entertain those ideas. I would also never entertain the idea that your relationship with, say, chocolate right now is the only relationship that you will ever have with chocolate. Just like anyone in your life, with your mother, with a family member, with a friend, with a business associate, like no relationship is static. And with every relationship you have in your life, with anyone, there is room for improvement. And it is the exact same with chocolate or crisps. And just on that note, if you do have a really bad relationship with chocolate or crisps, I would put my money on there was maybe a time where you controlled it, you judged it, you felt really guilty for having it, you told yourself you shouldn't be having it, you eliminated it. Any of those things will have an expected outcome of overeating the food. So that's not you per se, that's an expected outcome of a behavior and a choice you made with that food earlier on that has a consequence, unfortunately, but we can change that relationship. I think if you have watched the show, cool, great. If you haven't, I don't think you need to, but I hope I highlighted some points that I really want you and your mind to stay away from when it comes to that old and incorrect understanding about eating and weight issues. The biggest one, of course, being we deserve to be punished, we've done something wrong, and that people who are living without a weight problem get to be there from loads of punishment. That was one other thing. Final thing, I could go on and on, but the doctor was like, we need to call a spade a spade. Your blood pressure is high for your age and you are pre-diabetic. It's like as if the person is not aware of their size. Like, part of food noise is always thinking about the risks, the size, what could go wrong, if you got sick for your kids, whatever it might be. So that whole like, you just don't know it hard enough. You don't know the brutal truth. And if you knew the brutal truth enough, you would do more and then cop on. And it's like, no, eating issues come from bad emotions, bad emotions, fear being a huge one. So someone layering on the fear to us about our current weight or what it could mean for our future, that is only ever going to cause more eating issues. Like, we actually have to try and detox from fear. We have to try and start looking at this from where I am for today is perfect and I haven't done anything wrong, and I am victim, not in a bad way, but, you know, I am a result of my circumstances and the influences I had in my life and what went on and everything. And from here, I can improve. So I don't have to be broken in order to improve. I can be magnificent and a work in progress at the same time. So today I choose to be magnificent and a work in progress. I know I deserve more when it comes to how I emotionally feel on a day-to-day basis. I know I deserve more in terms of how I feel on a physical basis from day to day. And I am willing to get working on that in my own cool way, in my own cool time. That was one of the affirmations I loved as well. Figuring all of this out in my own cool way, in my own cool time. So yeah, I hope today's episode was helpful, and thank you so much for being here, and take care of yourself. Please don't be harsh on yourself. That's a major thing with our eating and weight issues. We're always too harsh on ourselves. So be nice. Okay, talk to you soon.